It's not 5 o'clock, and they don't care. Welcome to Wine to 5. Entertainment, education, and everyday drinking for everyday people. Your hosts are Valerie Caruso and Stephanie Davis, two wine educators who don't need a clock to know when to pour that next glass.
I'm wearing my sparkly Wine to 5 shirt today, Val, and I'm so excited because, well, we have kind of an exciting episode today, but I'm also really happy, and I have to confess that I'm finally going to get my hair did because I'm like weeks overdue, and this redhead is looking kind of sad.
See, it's the little things that excite us on the show. I'm sitting here, Steph, in my old officer training school sweatpants with dry rotted waistband. But they're so comfortable. Go Hawks!
Looking good, Val.
Yeah.
I'm glad you dressed up for me.
Yeah, right? Yeah. Well, I wanted cozy, and either way, we're both sparkly and excited, and I'm happy to be sitting across from you in Skype land on a Tuesday afternoon with tequila in my glass.
Tequila.
So let's get into it. Today is book review day, and we're talking about A Glass Full of Miracles. Do you want to hear about my tequila?
Yes. Lay it on me.
This is my birthday booze, girl.
Oh, is this what you got for your birthday?
Yes. I'm not a big gift person. Just like, John's like, what do you want for your birthday? I'm like, I don't want anything. I want you to make mac and cheese, and I want to sip champagne while you make it for me. And that's pretty much it. I don't want parties. I don't want any of that. I don't even let, you don't know when it is on social media because I don't tell anybody. John saw me coveting this beautiful bottle. This is the Código. And you've seen me drinking Código on the show before.
Oh, okay.
But this is the Añejo. And it was in the store. It was a new thing that they had that they didn't have before. And I got real excited because this was originally the one I went in for. And Añejo, listeners, you may remember, means it's aged. And it has to be aged a minimum of 1 year in oak to be called Añejo. This Código tequila is aged in French oak barrels that were used for Napa Cabernet wine for 18 months.
Whoa.
This is the most ridiculous tequila we've ever had in the house. It's also about $130 a bottle.
That's a very happy birthday.
So, yes. And that's the only reason I know the price is because I was standing there with my mouth open looking at the shelf. And therefore, it's a sipping tequila, and it's to be served like a good whiskey. I've never had anything like this.
And I am going to have some of that when I come down and visit you in the Springs.
And I thought of you when I put my nose in the glass because I thought, boy, I would have had a hard time at first just going, oh, tequila.
Yeah, I bet it's kind of its own animal.
It really is. It kind of reminds you of something like brandy.
Ooh. Because
you get that spice. If you're talking oak barrels here, so you're going to get that vanilla and everything. But then you get these other complexities, and I go back to like candied fruit and the spiciness of it and a long, long finish. And I'm just amazed. I would never, of course, we're not shooting it. We're sipping it. And this is where marketing comes in handy because it was all because of a picture I saw of George Strait sitting in a recording studio with a glass and this bottle behind him. And I had to research what it was. And then I found their website, and then I fell in love.
Oh, so you went down the rabbit hole. Good advertising on them.
Yes, and I've seen George Strait in concert. Love, love, love him. And he's actually an investor in the tequila industry as well. So, gentleman George, thank you very much. But that is what I'm drinking. What are you drinking?
Oh, this is so pretty, and you would love this. This is the Empress 1908 gin. Look at that color.
It's like inky.
It is so beautiful. It's an indigo color. What they do with this gin, and this is from Victoria, BC, Canada. We brought back 2 bottles in our suitcase. It gets its color from the butterfly pea blossoms. And so that's what gives this gin color and flavor, is a tea that they serve. They used to serve this at the Empress when you go for high tea.
Oh, yes.
Which is a Fairmont hotel.
Yes.
Right. And so what's really cool about it is, though, when you mix the gin with tonic, your cocktail turns pink. Can you see it, Val?
Oh, yes. And I see it fluoresces a little bit, which is what the quinine, I believe, does in the tonic water.
It's so fun. I sent you a picture and I sent you a video too, Val, of me making it, and where you see it turn from that blue indigo color to a pink. I just like the beautiful flavors because it's delicate. It's really nice in a martini. So we had it as a martini when we were there, and then now I'm trying it for the first time with tonic, but also very good.
Well, I love that you're drinking something purple up there. It looks like this beautiful violet color, which brings me to the book review we are doing. And I say violet because, first of all, if you have not gone back and listened to episode 79, the interview with Violet Grgich, please do. Because I believe that what she shared with us on the show, as well as anything you may have read in George Tabor's Judgment of Paris book, sketches out a portrait. And this book that we're going to talk about today richly colors it like Steph's gin and brings it to life. Seriously. Seriously. Do it.
Val, I can't believe you. I mean, how did I pick a drink that would just match perfectly with that? Oh my gosh. First of all, we have to say, not only was it so great to interview Violet and to also meet her in person at Women of the Vine Symposium, but our patron, Kathy Love, who's one of our Society of Wine Educators homies, she was the one who recommended this book. And so we reached out to Violet and said, hey, we're going to do this book review. And so Val and I had these signed copies, and we also got to send one to one of our patrons, Mary Lou, for this book club. And we were reading this over the holidays. And I have to say, right from the beginning, just reading the acknowledgments and the reviews of the book before I even started the story brought me so much anticipation. I was excited to dive in, and the photos, Val.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what percentage of the book is photos, but I'm so happy that they have included so many historical photos, and the book comes alive. The stories make sense. You can, now visualize everything he talked about because he's got some great descriptions. I loved the descriptions of the Croatian wine growing areas. It almost felt like you could be there. And what else did I really like? The family stories. There was actually, and I'm sure you remember this one, Val, when Mike Grgich's dad, his papa, gives him some goodbye advice when he leaves home at 10 years old. I read that out loud to Justin because I was really touched. And I'm still just amazed that he left home at age 10.
Right.
Crazy. Right. So, but the book had a lot of suspense and thrill for me that I thought, it was so exciting. It kept me wanting reading. But then also, Mike had so much gratitude that I just felt like I connected with him on that level. And sometimes I would just lose track and just keep reading and forget to take notes because, in this kind of a book, we know we're going to do a book review. You don't want to get halfway through the book and not have made any comments or notes to yourself. But at times I was just escaping into Mike's incredible life. And so I sometimes lost track, but I think that's a good thing. I think that's why this is such a great book to read. And when I finished the book was actually when I was really sick and I had pneumonia and I was starting to feel a little bit better. And I was so excited that I had enough energy to read and enjoy the book. And when I finished it, I just thought to myself, he is unstoppable. And it was really profound, just that feeling I had. And I wish there was more to read. It was almost like, you're finishing that glass of wine and you loved it so much and there was so much enjoyment and pleasure that you wish that there was a little bit more wine left. That's truly how I felt about the book. What was your take on it?
My perspective as I was reading it, because, I'm not a big reviewer of things like books and wine. That's not what I want to be when I grow up. But as I was reading the book and very cognizant of the point that I would have to make notes on this book, and I was really enjoying it, I was more drawn into the historical significance of who this person is. This is an American wine icon of Croatian origin who actually went back to Croatia to continue that story.
Yeah.
So his personal story and ignores the historical significance. And we've talked about the Zen, what do they call it? The Zen quest and all that. And this is talked about in the book as well. And bringing all these things that we've talked about in the show full circle, I actually was inspired to write a review. I have a review now that I've written for my own blog, because when something motivates you to put words together, you do it. You just do it. So the takeaway here is that, yes, it is a thick book. It is a heavy, gorgeous book that I so treasure. And it's signed by Mike Grgich, which is just, it's so beautiful. But it's loaded with pictures that help bring Miljenko, Mike's stories of pride, like Steph says, all that gratitude. And then there's fear. And there's fear there where most of us would have just said, to heck with it, I'm giving up. And so his fortitude, I mean, that forbearance was so prominent throughout the book, which leads to success. And then there's the struggle. And then the whole human spirit. He brings us all to life, but it's written, it sounds like, oh, wow, that sounds intense, Val. But it's written in these simple, short sentences, and these are in his voice. I believe the whole book was transcribed. And so it's written in these short, simple sentences, but the book is so powerful in the way it conveys this richness of his life. And like I said, when most of us would have quit, that importance of kicking down walls when sometimes they start to creep up on the road to your dreams, as I put it. And it means detours. And having gone through some of this, you know, of course, I haven't gone through a war-torn, communist-controlled country. Damn it, I love this book. And what a gift on many dimensions. So I can't thank the people at Grgich Hills Winery, Violet and Sylvie and Mike Miljenko. And I wish I knew how to say thank you in Croatian, but I would mess it up. It was beautiful.
I really too liked how it read as if Miljenko, Mike, was talking to you. And so telling his story. And so it's his voice coming through on the pages, which is really neat. We also want to include a couple of comments and hear from our listeners. And one of them is from our friend Lee. She posted a comment on Facebook that we'd like to share about Mike Grgich. And she says, quote, "A true legend whose destiny was written in the stars, one for which we are so grateful." And we're grateful too. Thank you, Lee, for leaving us a message about that. And we're glad that you like the book.
And I guess this means that if you guys are still wanting to do the book club, and we appreciate the comments because that makes it worth it for us, then we probably need to select a new book for the next hashtag W25 Book Club and get that on the calendar. So please reach out to us via email or social media. Give us some book suggestions. In fact, I would like to actually suggest that one of you listeners maybe come on the show and lead a discussion. If that's something you're interested in, let us know. Send us an email, suggest the book, you know, why you want to read that book, and maybe we'll just let that happen. I'm thinking in a couple months, we'll let you know when that's going to be. But as of this recording, we've read 3 books as part of our podcast, hashtag W25 Book Club. And we started this back in July of 2017. So that would be about right. So probably sometime, you know, June or July. We've done Vertical, Passion and Pinot on the Oregon Wine Trail by Rex Pickett, Cork Dork by Bianca Bosker, and A Glass Full of Miracles by Miljenko, Mike Grgich. Of course, we've read many other books too, but as far as discussing them in depth on this podcast and reviews, those are the 3 main ones from the last year. Steph, tell us some factoids.
Well, yeah, let me give some factoids, but you know, we really have mentioned and commented on so many other books because, well, we love books and we love reading. And if it has to do with wine, we're all over it. So yes, there were other books mentioned, but these were the 3 from our book club. So you either have some catching up to do, or you can get started now and let us know if you want to come host the show. I think that would be so much fun.
Oh, I know. I would like somebody else. I'd like to just sit back and let somebody else lead the discussion on the next book club. So, Roger up, listeners. This is your chance. Okay.
That's right. Roger up. But you know what was also great about this particular book, A Glass Full of Miracles, was all of the history, like you mentioned, and some of the factoids. I mean, I think there's so many nuggets and even wine geeky bits, like winemaking stuff that he talked about, like how to make his award-winning Chardonnay. It was pretty much in there word for word. But did you know Croatia became an independent country in 1991. That wasn't that long ago. I mean, that's some of the factoids in this book and why I think it can be appreciated on so many levels. Even people who aren't into wine can appreciate this story. Right. And the other thing, which maybe we should mark on our calendar, November 11th is St. Martin's Day. And that is celebrated every year in Croatia. And for those of you who are wondering who St. Martin is, he is the patron saint of winemakers. And wine is celebrated all day on November 11th and marks the day that must traditionally turns into wine. And they bless this during that day.
And something else that it just occurred to me, as many listeners, you may or may not know that 1973 Chardonnay that Mike Grgich made was when he was working at Chateau Montelena. And that was the wine that won the Judgment of Paris. So this is the magical Chardonnay we're speaking of, in case you didn't quite catch that. Because, all those pieces didn't come together for me until I read The Judgment of Paris.
Right, which is also a very good book.
Mm-hmm. That'd be a good book club thing, and then I wouldn't have to start from the beginning. I could just kind of flip through it. Right.
And then as far as everybody goes, Wino Radar, we want you to know that you can get this book if you haven't already through Amazon or on the Grgich Hills website. We did mention it is a beautiful hardcover book with lots of photos, and it is priced at $40 brand new. And if you are a Grgich Hills Wine Club member or would like to be a wine club member, which would be great to support Napa, then you can get it for a discounted price of $34. And then also, which was kind of cool, I made a note of it while I was reading the book. There's a film called Dossier Zinfandel that is available through the Grgich Hills website.
Mm-hmm. And this is the story of the Zin quest. And it's we've talked about it on the show before, but when Miljenko first came to Napa and he saw Zinfandel vines, and it reminded him of home. And it wasn't just because they were grapevines, it was the kind of vines. And so he came to Napa in 58? Was it? I think it was 58.
Something
and
like
so to imagine that it wasn't until the late 90s, early 2000s, when they were able to do the DNA. It's all nearly 50 years later that we were able to discover that Zinfandel, yes, did originate in Croatia as the Srinlek Kastelanski vine. So there are pictures of that vine in there. I'm not going to give you guys any more spoilers because the book just puts together a lot of pieces of not just American, but world wine history. It puts them together. So again, that's our book review for the week. But what about shout-outs, Steph?
We got to give a shout out to Miljenko, Mike Grgich, for sharing his story, and for Violet for really urging her father to write the book. I think they're quite a twosome, those two. And it's so fun that we had her on the show, and it's a nice relationship that we are building with Grgich Hills. But Violet and Sylvie helped us get these copies of the books that are signed, and our lucky patron, Mary Lou, won a copy too. And then another shout out to Kathy for recommending it. And Kathy read the book, and what she had to say about it was, quote, "I think what impressed me the most was that he lived in a one-room apartment or variation with not much more than a hot plate and a knife for years to get to his goal. How many young people today would even think of doing this?"
These kids today. You kids, get off my lawn.
Well, thank you, Kathy, for recommending and giving us some comments to share with all of the listeners.
Absolutely. We love when you comment, and this book is a treasure. I mean, it really is. What else I treasure? Patrons. I treasure our patrons, and they support us on our Patreon crowdfunding platform. Jeff E. from We Like Drinking Podcast, award-winning We Like Drinking Podcast. Lynn from Savor the Harvest blog, finalist for an award-winning Savor the Harvest blog. Sebastian of Sassy Italy Tours. Jen in Maryland and the world, according to her Instagram feed. David and Lisa in Illinois, Anne Marie in Virginia.
And our It's Not 5 o'clock and We Don't Care listeners, Meg in South Dakota, Clay in Arizona, John, Andrew, and Iswani in California, Chantel in Ontario, Canada, Mary Lou, the winner of this book, in Pennsylvania, Kathy in Georgia, Chris, Janet, and Diane in Colorado, Steve and Renee in Illinois, Kathy in Tennessee, who recommended this book, Ashley in North Carolina, and Sean in Ohio, and our tastemaker listeners, David in Scotland, Carol in Kentucky, and Karen in California. If you would like to have your name added to this list of exceptional listeners who support us and make this show possible, go to patreon.com/wine25podcast, and you'll be just as special as these people. And in between the episodes, you can connect with us. Val and I respond. There is nobody else. It is just us. That's why we love you guys. And you can find us on all the social spaces pretty much at Wine25. And we also have other conversations going on at the Wine25 community private Facebook group. So if you need to reach us, you can connect with Val personally on Twitter at WineGalUnboxed and as Vino with Val on Facebook, Instagram, and Pinterest. And I'm hanging around all the spaces as the Wine Heroine.
So until next week, everybody,
get your drink on.
I know. My glass is empty.
Mine's almost empty.
Thank you for listening to the Wine to 5 podcast. Be sure to check us out at Facebook/WineTWO5 and tune in next week for more fun and useful sip tips.